A retiree can have $1 million in his 401k and still refuse to spend it first. It's the account he spent 30 years building, and he'll drain everything else before he touches it. That sounds backward. By the end, you'll know why the 401k gets left alone, and the tax trap that punishes the retirees who get the order wrong. Here's how it actually works. Let me tell you about two men who retired on the same street, the same year, with almost the same amount of money. Frank was 68, a retired mail carrier who drove a Honda with 200,000 miles on it. He had a little over $1 million, split across 3 different accounts. His neighbor Gary was the same age, retired from the same kind of job, with roughly the same savings. 10 years later, Frank still had most of his money. Gary had handed a small fortune to the IRS, and Gary never made a single bad investment. The market treated both men exactly the same. The only difference was the order they spent their money in. Now, to understand what Frank knew, you have to understand one strange thing about the 401k. You think you own all of it. You don't. Here's the part that gets me. When you put money into a traditional 401k, you never paid tax on it. Not on the way in, not on the growth, not for 30 years. So the government did something clever. It let that money grow and it waited, because every dollar in that account still owes income tax. The day you pull it out, the bill comes due. Think of it like this. The IRS is a silent partner in your 401k. It never put in a cent. It never signed anything. But it owns a piece of every dollar in there, and it gets to decide its own cut later, at whatever the tax rate happens to be. That is why Frank did not touch it first. Frank had a regular brokerage account too. Money he had already paid tax on years ago. When he sold from that account, he only owed tax on the gains, at the lower capital gains rate. Some years, in a low-income year, he owed almost nothing at all. So that is the account he spent first. The cheap one. Gary did the opposite. Gary looked at his statement, saw the 401k was the biggest number, and started living off it. Every withdrawal landed on his tax return as ordinary income, stacked right on top of his Social Security. Same lifestyle as Frank, a bigger tax bill every single year. And here's the thing most people miss. Spending the 401k first does not just cost you more today. It quietly sets up something a lot worse down the road. When you turn 73, the government stops waiting. This is the rule almost nobody plans for. It is called a required minimum distribution. At 73, the IRS forces you to start pulling money out of that 401k, whether you need it or not. If you were born in 1960 or later, that age is 75. And the longer you let the account grow untouched, the bigger that forced withdrawal gets. This is the trap Gary walked straight into. His 401k had grown huge because he thought leaving it alone was the smart move. At 73, the forced withdrawals were so large they pushed him into a higher tax bracket, a bracket he had never even been in while he was working. Then it got worse. That extra income made more of his Social Security taxable, and it pushed him over a line that raised his Medicare premiums for the whole year. One forced withdrawal. 3 separate tax hits stacked right on top of each other. That is the silent partner collecting. On its schedule, not yours. If this is starting to make sense of your own accounts, do me a quick favor and hit the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to other people who need it. Now back to Frank. Frank saw all of this coming 20 years out, and he did something that looks completely backward until you understand it. In his 60s, when his income was low, Frank pulled money out of his 401k on purpose, before anyone forced him to. Here is why Frank did that, and paid tax he technically did not owe yet. There is a window most retirees sleep right through, the years between when you stop working and when Social Security and forced withdrawals begin. In those years, your income is low, which means your tax rate is low too. Frank used that window. Every year, he moved a chunk of his 401k into a Roth account and paid the tax at 12 or 22%. A Roth is the opposite of a 401k. You pay the tax now, and then it grows tax-free, forever. No silent partner. So Frank was buying his partner out, a little every year, at a discount, while the rates were low. By the time 73 arrived, Frank's 401k was small. His forced withdrawals were tiny, and most of his money sat safely in a Roth the IRS could never touch again. Gary paid his tax too, but he paid it later, all at once, at 32%, because he was forced to. Same money. Frank simply chose when to settle the bill. Gary let the partner choose for him. But there is one last piece, and it is the one that connects to something you might already know. Remember how when you inherit a house or stocks, the tax on all that growth just disappears? That is called a step-up in basis. The 401k does not get that. When your kids inherit your 401k, they owe full income tax on every single dollar. And the law now forces them to empty it within 10 years. So a big traditional 401k, the thing Gary was so proud of, is the single worst asset you can leave behind. It can hand your children a tax bill of $100,000 or more, at the exact moment they are in their own peak earning years. Frank's Roth passed to his kids completely clean. Gary's 401k passed to his kids with the silent partner still attached. So what does all of this actually mean for you? It means the size of your 401k is not the size of your retirement. It is the size before your partner takes his cut. $1 million in a 401k is not really $1 million. It might be $700,000 once the tax is finally paid. Maybe less. The retirees who understand this stop asking how much is in the account. They start asking how much of it is actually theirs. And the whole thing comes down to one decision: choosing when you pay the tax, instead of letting the government choose for you. You spend the already taxed money first. You use those low-income years to buy the partner out slowly. You leave the 401k for the middle, not the beginning. And you protect the tax-free money for last. None of this requires earning a single dollar more. It just requires spending in the right order. I think that is the part nobody explains properly. It was never about how much you saved. It is about who you let take a piece of it. Remember the retiree with $1 million who refused to spend it first? Now you know he was not being cautious. He was keeping his partner from setting the terms. That 401k was never fully his. Part of it always belonged to the silent partner in the room. The retirees who win do not have more money than everyone else. They just decide, on their own schedule, exactly when that partner finally gets paid. Next time, we are going after the accounts these same retirees pull from tax-free for the rest of their lives, and how they built them from nothing. I'll see you there.